Hello, I am Geert and I'm from Belgium. I'm somebody who has suffered from panic and anxiety attacks for a long time. When I was about 9 years old, we went to the Belgian coast here to have New Year's Eve with my family. And every time that New Year's Eve came, I was starting to get anxious. And then at the night of New Year's Eve, just right about midnight, I would start to get those symptoms. To get some sweats, to get a pounding heart, to get nausea, to get a little bit of dizziness. And I didn't dare to tell it to my parents, because if I would, they would say, "Hey man, stop being so annoying," or something like that. So I was afraid to say it. And back in those days, I really hated New Year's Eve because I was really afraid of it, because I was afraid of the symptoms I always got when it was New Year's Eve. That was when I was 9 years old. But then I became older, and when I was about 14 years old, I had the problem at New Year's Eve, but I started getting it at restaurants as well. I remember going to restaurants with my parents and already seeing where is the exit in this restaurant. Okay, the toilets are over there. I really want to sit on this chair right here, because if I sit there, then I can get out without anybody else have to get up or something like that, so I can quickly get out without any problems. So that was already a very scary experience, to go to a restaurant. Because of that, I hated to go to restaurants, and every time my parents said, "Come on, let's go out for a meal with our family," I would always say, "No, really, I don't want to go," and stuff like that. And they thought I was not very social and that I had some problems, and they didn't understand what my problem was, also because I just didn't dare to really explain to them what I had. But at that time, I was about 14 years old, I did not go to restaurants, and I was afraid while it was New Year's Eve. Now when you get 16, 17 and 18, that really brings problems, because at that time you're supposed to have a lot of friends and you're supposed to go to restaurants with them and do lots of fun stuff, but I didn't dare to do. Back in those days, the only thing I really dared to do was everything that was outside, somewhere where I could always get a breath of fresh air, because I was outside. I was afraid to be in closed rooms where there were a lot of people. Now that was a problem. Then when I was 18, I went to the university here in Leuven. It's very close to Brussels here in Belgium. And I was sitting there and I was ready to do my exam. And in order to do your exam, I don't know if you know how it is here in Belgium, but I think in the States and in other places of the world it's quite the same. You got those big rooms that look like a movie theater, but you got a little bench where you can write your exam on. But if you want to get up, all the people that are on the same row have to get up as well. So that really scared me. So I was sitting down doing my exam, and instead of focusing on the questions, I started to get nauseated again. I started to get sweats. It became black in front of my eyes. I was trembling. I got a flushed face, and I was really sitting there like I was so scared, like a drugs courier is scared when he has to pass customs and he's carrying a lot of drugs on him. You know, it was really scary. And instead of focusing on the exam, I was focusing on my symptoms, and I don't know if I'm gonna make it. And of course, I failed that first year. And it wasn't really good at all. I had about 20% of points. That was not very good. But the problem was that afterwards I took my girlfriend to the movie theater, and of course my head said, "Whoa, you know this place. Rows of seats, and they go down, and there's a lot of people. Hey, you should be scared here," my head said. And bam, I got the panic attacks and the anxiety attacks as well at those places, so I couldn't go to movie theaters as well. Back in those days, I was about 19 years old. I did not have fun during New Year's Eve. I did not have fun in restaurants. I just didn't go to restaurants. I did not have fun in movie theaters. I could not do my exams. You know, that creates quite a problem as well, because you are a teenager and you're really supposed to have a great life and have lots of social stuff, and you just don't dare to do them. That creates problems, of course. But my friends, they didn't understand it, because of course I never told them that I was having panic attacks. They just thought of me as somebody weird, somebody who was not very social and who was trying to get attention or something like that. So that was really a big problem. But it didn't stop there. There were moments where I even had panic and anxiety attacks in my own bed. I was, for instance, watching a movie, and in that movie there was a movie theater, or there was an exam, or a restaurant, and just the sight of the restaurant was enough to give me panic attacks, to give me the symptoms, to make me scared, and in my own bed. And back in those days, you know, I was about 22, I think. At that time I said, okay, this is enough. At this point, today, I will do whatever it takes to get rid of these symptoms, because I want to live my life. I want to have a fun life. I want to have fun. And this anxiety, this panic attacks, this agoraphobia is going to stop me from having fun. So I will do whatever it takes. And what I did was, first of all, I was searching for solutions here in Belgium. I went to my doctor, and my doctor said, "Hey man, you're just too stressed. It's all in your head. Don't worry about it. There's nothing wrong with you. Just don't worry about it." Hey man, that was great advice. Don't worry about it. But people like us, we worry a lot. So saying to us, "Hey, don't worry," really doesn't help. Then he wanted to give me some tranquilizers, but luckily I said no to the tranquilizers, because the only thing they will do is they will hide the symptoms, if you're lucky. Because for most people they give you a whole lot of side effects. But for the lucky ones, it hides the symptoms. But if you hide the symptoms, there still is a problem. The day you stop with those medications is the day everything will come back, because you did not kill the cause of your problems. Then they sent me to psychologists here, and what they did was even more intelligent. They said, "Okay, let's talk about your past. How was your childhood? Oh, so your parents fought a lot. Oh, so they're divorced right now. Oh, so you did not get enough love from your mom, or your dad did this and that. Oh yeah, but that's the reason, of course. That is where it went wrong. As a little boy, you shouldn't have la 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 la." Okay. And then I went home after a couple of sessions, and after having spent about $1,000, euros. And then I said, okay, now that I know what is causing this, why am I still having these panic attacks? Now, of course, the reason was that wasn't the real cause. It's not because my parents were divorced and because they fought and because they gave me strange feelings when I was young while they were fighting that I was having these panic attacks. It took me a couple of years after that to really figure out what was the problem. But now that I know the problem, the parents were not the problem. The way I was thinking was the problem. The things I was eating, the things I was doing or not doing with my body were the problems. So the psychologists here in Belgium, they did not help me. And at that time I said, okay, I'm going to look where the people are that know a lot about this. And in Germany, for instance, I found some really top-notch psychologists that are experienced in the field of panic attacks, as they say in German. And I really talked to those people, and I went to see them, and I said, okay, help me, tell me what is wrong with me and how this works. What is a panic attack? What is happening in my body at the moment where I feel those symptoms? Please explain this to me. And I talked to those people, and they really helped me out. They made me see the light. They made me see the matrix, if I can tell you like that. They made me see how the system worked. Then I took a trip to California, and that was a very big step for me, because of course if you have panic attacks, you are afraid to drive, you're afraid to fly, because if you're in a small thing called a plane for hours, because from Brussels to LA, that is 16 hours, that's a long flight. But I was already, thanks to the German professors, I was already a bit able to manage myself. And then in California, I went to a seminar of Tony Robbins. I'm sure you know who Tony Robbins is. And Tony doesn't talk about anxiety. He never talks about anxiety as such. But he did teach me the ways that I was thinking. He did teach me, or taught me, the way that my mind works and the way that I'm controlling myself. So I took some of his stuff and implemented it on my own body. Then I saw some other people in the States. I listened to some CD programs, read some audio books, read this and that. Most of it didn't work, but out of every program there was just this one sentence or this one thing that I could implement on my own, and that really helped when I had those panic attacks. Some of these things, the most important secret that I learned for people like us, people with panic attacks, is that you have to stop drinking everything that contains caffeine. Now I'll talk about this later, but that single one thing decreased my symptoms a whole lot. Because what was the problem? And I didn't know it back then. But while I was in those movie theaters when I was young, and while I was having my panic attacks there, I was drinking a Coke. What do you buy when you go see a movie? A